cool.
Are we happy to just jump in? Can I?
Yeah,
Do you
you edit this anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or?
No, I don't think I have. I don't think I have any questions. I'm a little bit nervous. I was awake at like 4:30 this morning. So, yeah, I'm gonna do my best to be, as vulnerable as I can be.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, I am definitely. This is the first. I've never done anything like this, so I'm
Yeah,
excited
cool.
though. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd like to do this more. I think.
Yeah,
But
cool.
being your first one, it's a bit nerve-wracking, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I can
exciting for
imagine.
us too, eh? It's something new. It's the unknown, hey? But
Yeah.
that nerves are what makes it so exciting as well.
Yeah. It definitely.
We're pretty much.
Sorry, you go.
No,
I was
you
going to
go.
say it definitely is a like a being nervous for it was not a nervous in a like frightened nervous. It was more of a like I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm nervous for how awesome this would be.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a difference, eh? Like.
Yeah, definitely.
Can the world prepare
something
for
you
how
wanna
cool
do.
this is going to be?
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. All right. So like I'll just do a bit of an intro. And then we'll just ask you some questions, and we're just gonna sit back and listen and enjoy listening to your story, really. So
Let's do it.
it's just a conversation, and it's like the way we want to kind of do this is it's like there's no formalities or no pressure. It's just if you go on for hours about something, that's good. Like we can always do it. If you don't talk about something, we can always do another podcast. So don't
wonderful.
stress. It's just whatever it is perfect. So yeah,
beautiful. Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. So I did want to start this. First off, we've all got our tea. We've got to introduce our tea. I've got a Royal English breakfast this morning. What do you have, Jay?
Mum brewed some at Mum's at the moment, so Mum brewed me some loose leaf English breakfast tea, which is one of the better kinds.
What do you got, Sean?
Like I said before, not a big tea drinker, so whatever was in the house, and that was just chai tea.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. All right, cool. So I just wanted to start. I think we're all a little bit nervous here. Like it's the first, it's the first person we've got on the podcast, so a little bit different, the unknown, something new. But we have had quite a few people who've looked at getting on, and a lot of people, some people say they want to be on, and we're going to get to people, but there is a reason why we wanted you to be the first one. Well, I definitely did anyway. So thank you for coming on. First off, but I did want to start with like a little story how I kind of got to know Sean and the type of person I seen in his and how I connected with him straight away. Is what I've talked about here on the past is like kind of like my breakthrough moment a couple of years ago. You go through your different cycles, and I was a bit lost and had a lot of things going on. Anyway, happened to meet Sean one night at his brother's bucks party. And we'd met each other before that, but that was the first time we, proper sat down and had a chat. And I had a few things going on, and I just remember Sean just being very open and just sitting back and listening to all my problems for the night. And you just get a sense of a type of person that when they really listen, and someone that really just wants to connect and listen. And I remember, he said. Gave some good advice, and then just like the next day texted me as well and said, hey man, if you ever want to talk, here's my number. And and it was genuine and it was honest, and it was and then those type of people, those type of connections, I think you can just really feel. And so so thank you for that. And then from then on, every time we see each other now, we can just see that we just know we're going to have a deep chat.
Well, we had one pretty recently too, to be fair, like at a mutual friend of ours, Joel, had his wedding, and I knew you were going to be. I asked Cody, my brother, is Bicey going to be there? And he said, yeah, Bicey will be there. So, and I was, in the back of my head, I was thinking, awesome, that's cool. we'll have a good chat.
You just know.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for coming on. Because
No, that's
you do
okay.
have a
Thank
great
you.
story.
Thank you for your kind words. That's very nice. I appreciate it.
Oh, good. Yeah, so this is about you, this podcast, and just about hearing your story. And like, I've heard a little bit about it recently. I didn't want to hear too much because I wanted you to come on the podcast and like get real deep into it. So,
Yep.
A bit about this podcast is like we talk about like the character you're playing, your personality that you develop like as a kid, that we create to survive, to fit into the world. So, there's heaps of hats you can wear, heaps of different parts of your character that you play. But it's about for us working out who really is the Sean character, like who is the Sean character at the moment. It could be things you're doing, what are you passionate about, what are you into. We're just, yeah, a bit about your character. And then, if there's something in the past that's influenced that, we can get into that too.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Do you want me to start talking, or do you have questions?
Yeah, so tell us about who is the Sean character.
Are we talking? Sorry, just to clarify, are we talking about who is he now, or who maybe
Who are you
was
now?
he?
Yeah, we'll go
am
now,
I
and then we'll go a
now?
bit into the past, and then we'll go to the future.
Good question.
Yeah.
The Sean character now, I think just somebody who's still figuring it out, I reckon. I think it's such a, like, who I am now is, still figuring it out from, when this all started, or, from when you're born to when you're a kid. I think you go through so many phases of your life that you're constantly trying to figure stuff out. I guess something I do try to do, and I think this is, my work life and my home life and everything like that, is just trying, I guess, in the thick of figuring everything out, is just trying to stay true to me and being myself at the same time. So I'm a pretty emotional person, and I think I'm pretty in touch with my emotions, but then, an emotional person. And I know that we've spoken before, Bicey, about being vulnerable. And I think over time, I've probably become more comfortable with that side of myself and being vulnerable and, talking about it. But I think I think it's something that you you're constantly just trying to figure stuff out, right? Like, I don't think, I can clearly say right now, this is who I am. I mean, I have kind of, different aspects of my life that, if you ask me, how's work going? I love what I do, and I'm very passionate about what I do. But then even, and that might be one life of my life that I'm, feel like I'm sorted out, but then there's other aspects of my life where I don't feel sorted or stuff like that,
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so like and that's like you're 100% right. There's like those different characters you play, hey, and that's like you fit into the world in different ways. Who is Work Sean?
Work Sean. I have a pretty niche job, which I'm, like I said, very passionate about. I do something called adventure therapy. So I work with kids with
Complex Jay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Kids with complex trauma and at-risk youth, and I take them out on adventures. We work with like young people who have quite complex mental health issues and just complex lives, really. But we go out, so I'm qualified to do rock climbing and canoeing and high ropes, take them bushwalking, and we go on adventures and I guess try to help them make some sort of sense of the world. But also we, look at, the therapy side of things and try and hit certain goals that they want to hit and support them in their life. And I guess we don't really delve into the past. So like, I'm not a psychologist. I don't dig into what they went through, but we more so look towards the future and trying to help them, learn skills and stuff that are going to help them succeed in the future and make the best out of their own life. So that's what I do in my day to day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a hard job. You're
Yeah,
working with,
Imagine.
a lot of complex things. But at the same token, it's a pretty awesome thing to be able to, do something like, what did I do during the week? One of my sessions, I went and played squash, and I'm a big fan of squash, and that's not necessarily an adventure, but that's part of where, a lot of what we do is led by the young people that we work with. So at the beginning of our sessions that we are doing, they help that I take them to like a local library, somewhere that's safe, and we sit down and we plan what they're going to do. And an adventure is different to everyone, right? Like for some people, an adventure is going up a 20-meter rock face at Kangaroo Point and climbing and doing some pretty remote canoeing and fishing at the same time and all that kind of stuff. But for some people, adventure is going to their local park because they don't adventure out. So it's making adventure achievable too, and understanding that adventure is different for everybody. What I perceive to be an adventure, is not the same to the person next to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
cool.
awesome. It's such a cool idea, and just suits your personality, I think, too perfectly. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, so I studied teaching,
Yeah.
and I think like a few teachers I know, I got to my 4th year, and in my last prac, and I pretty had a bit of a, not a breakdown, but I had this moment of I talked to my partner and my parents, and I said, look, just fuck, what do I do? Like I don't think I like this. And it wasn't like, I've always loved working with kids. I've always loved building relationships with kids, but I really struggled. Like I'm not a very good, I struggle with English at the best of times, struggle with mathematics. But I feel like I have this skill of, working with young people, and getting to know them and getting them to be their true self. So fortunately enough, the school I was on my final prac at, there was a chappie there, and he said, hey, go and check out this school called YMCA Vocational Schools. What they do is they work with kids with complex trauma and at-risk youth, and it's kind of like a last resort for kids who have been expelled, but you're also working with kids who, are school refusal and a lot of things like that. He said, go have a look. I fortunately met, who is now a good friend of mine, Tristan, who is the senior youth worker there. And basically, and a principal who actually is a guido in Townsville, and
Oh, wow.
a very close, a mentor of mine, I think. And basically, I sat down in a room, figured out that this principal that was about to hire me was from Townsville and taught at Willie Ross, and I'm a Willie Ross graduate. So it was like this,
Synchronicities.
yeah, crazy connection. And we sat down, and he just said, mate, like I think he was keen to have me, and I was keen to be there. So I went and worked there for a bit. At the same time, I met some amazing people. I've got a very close group of friends who no longer work there, but have all stayed, very close friends. A lot of them were at my wedding just recently. And at the same time as, meeting all these awesome people, I was getting qualifications in the outdoors. So you have to be qualified to take people rock climbing and stuff like that, surprisingly. So people don't fall. And yeah, and I just got to a point where I was like, that's definitely what I want to be doing. And someone I know told me about Youth Flourish Outdoors. So that's the organization I work for. Someone told me about it, said, I think you would be great. And fortunately, they had a job going at the same time. I moved there as a casual, so I left a full-time job to move there as a casual. And I just said to my partner at the time, I've got to make something of this. Like, I have to do it. Like, I'll take up as many hours as I can, and I see this the potential in this, and she was so supportive of me. And yeah, I now work basically close to full time for them.
Yeah, awesome. It's such
Which
a good
is-
story. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I can just see like there's just, yeah, like you said, like when you finished teaching, there was like this key decision and you
Mm.
could have gone, a couple of different ways there. And then again, like before that job, leaving a full-time job to go to a casual.
Scary.
Yeah, scary decisions, but it sounded like, yeah, you, I guess, faced the fear and trusted your gut on what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it was scary. I think particularly finishing 4 years at uni, like if you ask me now what I should have studied, I probably would say social work or I know we've spoken about this before, Bicey, like even, being a guido in a high school, or psychology, which is far more intriguing to me. But I guess that was the decision I'd made, and I went with that, and I just had to make, I actually surprisingly had, at the time of finishing my degree, there was 2 jobs. It was the YMCA, which is the school that I worked for, or there was another organization or business, and they do some great work. They do some really great work down here in Brizzy, but it wasn't it very much going into schools and running like leadership type things, which I'm a big fan of. I love that kind of stuff, but it probably wouldn't have opened the doors for me that working at the YMCA did, particularly for, getting qualifications and meeting people who work in this area of mental health, and that kind of thing. So it was kind of like this, what do I do? And I fortunately made the right decision. It was a 50-50 and I got it right.
Well done.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, we've talked about on here before. There's like also a party that knows, right? And the universe, we talk about the universe. So you don't have to be spiritual, but it sounds like it's all worked out perfectly. And as much as we want to look back in the past, like, those past decisions have worked out for you. I know you're at a bit of a crossroads at the moment too with what you want to do, and we'll get to that in a second. Cool. But yeah, like I think that it's just really cool to me that like, yeah, you've had these big decisions and, along the way, and they've influenced what you've ended up doing. But it sounds like too, like just being a good person and making those connections has just served you so well in those jobs as well, and like building those connections, and which I think is awesome as well. More
Just
on like,
can I
go.
add to that really quickly? An opportunity to be vulnerable, I guess.
Yeah, love it.
That also didn't like, as much as we say that it fell perfect, like it kind of married up perfectly, it didn't seem like that as well to start off with. I guess like when I first accepted the job, the schools that I'd done my pracs in were very, I wouldn't say very affluent, but like as in it, the behavioral needs of the students weren't challenging until I went to this school, and I was like, wow. Funny story. When you're in when you're in uh, teaching school, there's the 10 classroom management strategies, and one of them is, I remember a teacher saying to me, always say thank you, because it kind of it puts out that whatever you ask a student to do, it's going to get done. So it'd be like, Jared, can you pick up that pencil? Thank you. I said that to a student, or I used that thank you term, and they turned around and looked at me and said, "Don't fucking assume I'm going to do it, mate." And I went, "Yep,
Right,
yep,
boy.
yeah, good point." And also, I think, and with that, right, like that's when I kind of went, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, you know what, these classroom management strategies, like, look, some of them work. I think they're very situational. Like you use ones for particular situations, and you try your best to have a what would you call it, like a a lot of these strategies that you can pull from at different times, and one of them might work and one of them might not work. But ultimately, in that kind of moment, and I had a few other moments, I was punched in my first week. It was a very light punch, but nothing crazy. But ultimately, in that kind of first week slash few months slash first term, it was like this thing of, man, I just got to get to know these kids and build solid relationships with them and learn about them, say good morning to them every morning, and stuff like that. Because shit, who am I to tell them what to do? And they're not going to want to do something for me. So yeah, ultimately trying to just be myself was really important, but at the same token, really get to know them for who they are, and which they're some of the most amazing people that I've had the chance of meeting. But yeah, and in saying that as well, Blythe, sorry to babble on, but probably for the first week, even probably longer, there were moments where I would retreat to the toilet of our staff room, and I'd be texting my partner, who is just amazing. She's awesome. Shout out to Gracie. But I would retreat to the bathroom, and I'd be texting her saying, darling, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this. I need to leave. Like, it's too hard. And she was so supportive, just saying, just give it 6 months. If you hate it in 6 months, you can always leave, but give it some time. And just really pushed me to, I guess, get through that tough period. And I think when you have such a big change, for example, taking on a new job or big change, whatever it may be, that first part can be so daunting. And when I sat there, I would sit there in the bathroom and use up a bit of time in the bathroom just going like, fuck. Like, I think at times I'd probably cried a little bit as well, and I'd have to go in there and wash my face with water and go like, what am I doing? I just felt so out of place. But after some time, I then really felt like, hey, I gave it a really good shot, and I really feel like I should be here.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's yeah, that's those lessons too, that it's crazy, because like, would you be where you are now without like those hard lessons that you learned in those moments as well?
No way. Like, I think that you could, like, that's where it's like pushing through. And I mean, having support is really important. Like, I was quite lucky that I had Grace there, my parents, I had some, like I said, I have some very awesome, who I now consider very close friends, but at the time I was just a new coworker to them. Like, I was just a new coworker, and they were so supportive of me, and helped me through that time, which was, at the time, difficult. It was difficult getting up to going to work, and staying a whole day at school, and at times, managing really challenging stuff that you kind of like, am I even equipped to be here? And then I guess by pushing through that. And I think that over my time particularly, this is one instance where I've got it right, but there are so many where I have not got it right, and I have pulled the pin early, and I guess now it's a learning opportunity for me to go like, I should have pushed through that, or I should have, seeked support differently, or something like that, right? And I'm sure that there's going to be plenty more times in my life where same thing, I pull the pin early and I get it wrong, and I succumb to, that feeling of anxiety or being scared or upset or whatever it may be, that really strong feeling, and I get it wrong. But then I guess when you reflect on it, you got to go, okay, how do I learn from this?
Yeah,
okay, right.
That's that importance of inflection. Hey, like, that's, you can see the past as like, that's the difference. And I think support's so big in that, like you said, like the difference between like something being like a trauma and like impacting your life and being crippling, first thing being a lesson, is that reflection and that support from those people in those moments. Hey, like,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
because there's gonna be those moments we get it wrong.
Yeah. Can we dive into that point where you were like, so you were having these troubles when you were at prac, yeah, doing teaching prac, or is that right?
Do you mean when I was retreating to the bathroom?
Yeah.
No, that was actually in my first few weeks at when I like got my job.
Yeah. Okay.
My first full-time teaching job at the
Yeah.
YMCA.
Yeah. Okay. How did you kind of transition from that job and you were like to the adventure job, right? Are they similar, or did you find like
Yeah.
like I want to like kind of find that point where you kind of felt like you pushed through and really connected with those kids and stuff, but you found that, oh, this isn't what I want to be doing.
Great question. I think that again, for me, it probably come back to what am I best at?
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I tried my very best to teach these kids maths and English.
Yeah.
And I was at one point a math teacher, and at one point I was English. One point I did science for a little bit, and I couldn't give a shit about science, to be fair.
Life of a teacher.
Yeah. The one thing that I loved teaching was PE, but at the same token, they weren't always up to doing PE. So it was kind of like, I was like going in there with this idea of, man, like, so I play a lot of soccer or football, and I was going in there going like, man, it'd be awesome to start a footy team and that kind of thing.
All these great ideas.
Yeah. They did not want to do that.
Yeah.
But one thing that I saw and I observed when I was there was, so in my very first year, my principal at the time, he was like, Sean, I'm putting you in charge of all the excursions for the year. And I went, okay, great, easy job. It's a bit of organizing, fill out a couple of risk assessments. Little did I know that they go on an excursion pretty close to every 2 weeks. And one of the best things that he ever said to me was, I don't want they don't have to be educational. What we're looking for is opportunities to build relationships and have fun. And I thought that was really amazing. So, we got some amazing excursions under our belts. We went to Dreamworld and Wet and Wild. We went to High Ropes. We went, one of the best times we went to I think they have one in Townsville, Biassy, at the Barra Fishing Farm. It's like a blow-up water park. Yeah. So we went to one of those, and you're mucking around, running around on the obstacles with kids. You're falling off. You also realized that like there were many other moments that where we just got these amazing opportunities to build relationships. I thought, how do I do that more often? And I always had an interest in the outdoors. I never did like anything. Surprisingly, I never did any scouts or anything like that. Whereas I think I probably would have really enjoyed that as a kid growing up. But, I took a bit of an interest in like rock climbing, and then I took a bit of an interest in being in the outdoors and hiking and, paddling and stuff like that. So I thought, well, I'll go get those. I'll start, and see where that takes me. And I was quite fortunate that, I guess a lot of what my job is now is taking kids on those adventures that we just have a lot of fun. And like I said, there is a very therapeutic element to it, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in those sessions. But I think positive experiences can be so life-changing, and can reshape the way we think. And those, I guess that's kind of what I try and do, is make the sessions just an enjoyable time. They don't have to be these crazy, excursions that we would have gone on, but an enjoyable time.
It's all relationships, right? Like, and that's something I've learned along that, like having those close relationships. And like, I guess it's like you said, it's probably one of your skills that you identified early on. And, for those kids, just having someone, you don't have to talk deep or do anything, but just having someone they know that, that's consistent and has a close relationship with them makes a huge impact.
Yeah, and I think about some of the people in my life and what they've been for me, and I go like, how can I be that for them as well? Like, if I was going through a really hard time, and which I've been through many, just like we all have, what would I want from somebody in that moment? And if I can give that to them, then it's just another support that they can have.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so cool your work and everything, but I know there's definitely a bit more to you as well, so I'm keen to get into that other side. So like I guess outside of work, or could be work as well, but you talked about some of the struggles there that you've had, that have, I guess, influenced you along your journey. So yeah, I'm interested in like whether you've got some struggles going on now, or some of like the big, you know, um, crying on the bathroom floor moments, those big pivotal moments anytime growing up that, have had a big impact on, who you are. Like, let's see how vulnerable you're prepared to get here.
Yeah, let's do it. I was gonna say, let's get into it.
Yeah.
I think so. I think everyone's life is full of these moments. I've had many, and I think that they're like, as I know I messaged you, Bicey, because I said like, how deep do we get? Like, I mean, there's so many. Like, I think if I think back to when I was a kid and growing up, and a teenager and young adult, and still a young adult. When I was really young, I like had anxiety. I don't know why that came about or anything like that. I just know that when I think I was like 6, or probably even younger. I remember my mum saying that we were walking through a shopping center one time. I don't remember this, but I just had like this panic moment, froze, all that kind of stuff. I saw a psychologist when I was like, really young, to kind of help me through that. I know that as I got older, like that anxiety really translated to, like staying, like I couldn't stay over friends' houses at night time. Like, I remember being invited to a very good friend's party when I was like 11, and like I faked being sick because I just wanted, I don't think I faked it, but my feelings became so strong of feeling sick that I, got their parents to call my mum and come pick me up. And that was then, that also played a part in, as I got older, going on things like football camps. I would have, really big panics the nights leading up to it. And then that I slowly got better at managing that. I think that also then can play into, the next part, which is, your own mental health, and that's probably something that progressed when I was older. Like, I wouldn't say that I have ever been depressed or anything like that, but I've definitely had moments of, feeling really down and on missing out on things and not understanding why I feel not great about myself or stuff like that. I think another thing that I probably went through was like, I think both of you spoke about it on your both recent episodes of that social, fitting in socially as a young adult slash older teenager. That was something that I think I really struggled with, but also didn't have a great understanding of. So I think there's many things, right? It's
Do you think that, I guess, your battle with anxiety has led you down a path of being interested in helping other people with their mental health as well?
Yeah, I definitely. I think that, like, I've also been quite curious about why I feel certain things. So I think by being curious about it, I've then gone like, why do I feel that way? I need to figure that out, so that I can manage it better for next time. And then on top of that, I think I've gone like, well, shit, I wonder if other people feel this way. And then I've also then thought, well, if I feel this way, and if somebody else happened to feel that way, maybe maybe I can help them feel a bit better about themselves, because I know that, I don't feel great when I'm in those states. I also have had, very, in regards to kind of leading me down the path of that side of things. I had a very close friend to me, somebody very close to me and my family, take their own life. Quite a few, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and that
Wow.
was really quite, that was a full-on time for me, and people around me and my family, particularly because it's one of those things where I never saw it coming, and then I kind of think, well, how did I not know? Yeah, and that's hard to grapple with at times, but also now going, well, how do I, really make sure that I make a space that's comfortable for everybody to say how they're feeling and what they're going through. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like I said at that story at the start, like I could just tell when I talked to you that time, like you were genuinely like, it wasn't just like hey, how you going, man? It's like, here's my number, man. Like, call me if you need me. And you could tell that came from like a genuine place.
Yeah, and I know we've spoken before, Blythe, and I think like I kind of reflect back on maybe my friend and go like, at what point, was I not, maybe I didn't make it clear enough to him or something like that. And so, yeah, I guess trying to make it clear to many people, as that I love them and that I am there for them, and if they need anything, let me know. Or just, and just to chat. I'm here for you. Is something that I try to do a lot more now. Yeah. But then I think as well as like kind of making, you kind of practice what you preach, right? Like if I can be vulnerable to the people around me, tell them when I'm not okay, tell them when I'm going through something that's tough and that kind of thing, hopefully when the roles are reversed, then they can do that with me. Because I guess when we talk about being vulnerable and stuff like that, it's talking about those really deep and hard things to talk about. It's almost, I don't know, it's almost like letting somebody into that part of you that you don't want people to know about. But I guess if people know that about me, well then shit, like they know the deep and dark parts about me.
Yeah, and it's that power of vulnerability, right? And that's exactly why we started this podcast, and have so many just normal conversations. Hey, like I'm the same, especially around footy and work. Oh, yeah, how you going, man? And me and Jared have talked about this before. Like we do it to each other sometimes when you're not necessarily, you might not be in the mood for that, and
Yeah.
it just takes that one person to say something that tiny little bit vulnerable, and you can just see the weight of everyone just open up. You're not playing this. There's no wall there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like having when you're talking about having conversations about footy and stuff like that, I mean, they all play their part. Like having those conversations are very normal. I guess it's trying to create a space where, like, if there was something vulnerable that needed to be said, that it's okay to come out, and that your reaction is, hey man, like, thank you for telling me, like that. And I think you've said it before, Adam, that like, not always having to be the person with the answers, but just somebody to hold that space and listen and go like, I'm here for you, and be with them.
Yeah, it's powerful. I love how we like so often let ourselves, like we want people to be open and vulnerable, but it's so hard for ourselves to be like vulnerable ourselves, right? Like it seems like such a big task to be open to other people, but when it happens to us, it's just such a beautiful thing. And thank you for sharing, Sean. That was
like I could just see, like you can probably see, like, I don't know, like, and this is a good thing about having guests on. Like I even noticed Jared's face and my face then when you shared some of those stories, and it's just like,
it's powerful.
yeah, it's just this change in energy, man, and it's just like it creates that deep connection and that trust.
Yeah, I think like we can go deeper into those stories if you really want. Like I think it's the honest. I mean, I always used to think like when I was younger, like that, having these thoughts and feelings to me was always like, oh, what, not what's wrong with me, but like, am I?
Did you think you needed to feel good all the time? Like, is there that?
No, I think it was more so that if I shared this with somebody, what's their reaction going to be? Am I going to be perceived to be a pussy, or like
Am I gonna
somebody
fit in?
who isn't strong and that kind of thing? And I think I think when I was younger, definitely been quite I guess nervous and scared for what people's reaction to that would be. So probably didn't tell very many people. I'm, like I said before, I'm very lucky my partner is so supportive, and I've always been able to talk to her. My brother and my sister and my parents, again, like people who I can absolutely talk to. But and a few friends. But as I have gotten older, I've definitely kind of gone, well, shit, just give it a go. If there is something wrong in an aspect of your life, just sometimes you just got to say it. I think one recent example of this is probably I was like at the end of our footy season, we have a footy trip, which is a 2-day party event. Yeah. And I love it. It's a lot of fun, get around, I've been very fortunate to play with football with, a good group of guys for, 7 years now. Some of them, again, very close friends of mine. But probably 2 years ago, like I was sweet. Like in previous trips, we've been to Cairns and stayed at Gilligan's, which is a lot of fun. We've been to Airlie and, had some really awesome trips. But probably 2 years ago, like in the lead up to it, I was like, probably 2 weeks out, I was like to Grace, I don't know if I can go. Like I feel so anxious to going, and I don't know why I'm feeling like this. I don't know what the change is, but I just feel really anxious about going. I ended up going to this one, and how crazy is this, right? We were in Byron, and I hate saying it, but I probably had a bit of a panic attack. I was very lucky that one of my best friends played with me at the time. Shout out to Huxley. But he, like I said to him, man, like I feel sick, like I don't know what's going on. And he just said, well, like, it's okay, just do what you need to do. And I basically called Grace, and she drove all the way from Brisbane to Byron and picked me up because I didn't have a car. And we drove back, and it was crazy. It was like this feeling as soon as we probably got to the Gold Coast, so an hour away, and this feeling of I'm actually going home. It was kind of like this, oh shit, you know, that's anxiety. that's 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 me panicking, and I wasn't actually sick. It was just I needed to probably manage that a bit better.
Yeah, wow.
And so fast forward a year later, similar thing happened. I was getting, the lead up to it, and I love talking about the lead up because I've had, previous to that one, 5 or 6 unreal trips where it's just a lot of fun and having a lot of fun. And in the lead up to it, I could feel myself doing the same thing. And I'm, like I said, very fortunate. I've got probably 6 or 7, very close football friends. And I was grappling with the idea of sending a message into this little group chat that we have with, just the 8 of us, and saying how I was feeling. Man, it was so daunting. And I probably grappled with it for a week, should I do it? Should I not? I eventually sent a message into it and just say, hey boys, I just wanted to let you know it's not like I'm struggling with a bit of anxiety at the moment. I don't know why, but things like end of season trip is something that seems to be triggering me. I just wanted to let you guys know, and if you could just look out for me over the time and that kind of thing. And in the moment between that and the first response, man, my heart was racing of what are people going to say? Are they going to be like, oh, come on, you're scared to have a beer, or, you're scared to have a party and that kind of thing. And the response that I got back was just so overwhelming of, hey man, that's okay. Let us know if you need anything. Boys messaging me outside of the chat going hey, if you ever want to just have a chat about it, let me know if there's anything. One of the boys messaged me who, organizes them all, was if you need me to do anything, just let me know. I had already put some things in place for myself that I knew would be helpful. But the response was just I think it made me cry, because I was how amazing that this, group of men were so supportive of me to come out and say that.
Wow. That's huge. I even sitting there thinking about sending that message for me would be whoa, I get it, man. That's.
And I think, like I said, I'm so lucky that I've spent a long time with these group of people, and I think are very intentional about, the kind of people that I want to hang around and stuff like that. And this group of people are, really, really good guys. And, it's still daunting. It's still daunting to think when you're sitting there and you're typing that message going, same thing. This is so out of the norm. How often do you receive a message saying that I'm struggling? But to the same token, I thought back to when my friend was going through a lot of stuff and, ultimately took a different path. Thought, man, I would have loved to have received that message.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think anxiety, obviously anxiety is a little bit different to maybe what he was going through, or maybe it was the same. I don't know, but I would have loved to have received that message. And I just thought, okay, well, if I would have loved to, well, then I need to send it. And, I need to, hopefully then if any of them go through anything, or if anybody else goes through anything, they feel comfortable to send me that message. Or if it's not me, maybe they've seen that I've sent that message before, and maybe they've gone, well, when Sean did it, the response he got was, positive. So maybe it's sending somebody else. Maybe it isn't me, and that's fair enough. But maybe I'll send that message.
Yeah, it's like being a theme on this podcast is like facing those fears. Hey, and it's fears like a
Mm.
relative thing for everyone. Like if it is like something social or, and I just think the power, like you need to be vulnerable to face a fear. And like obviously that you being that vulnerable has given that power to so many other people. So that's awesome, man. I respect that a lot. Like that's what we want to do on this is like face those fears and help people face their fears. But I was just like, what was that feeling on the other side when you started to get those messages? Like you went from
Oh, like
anxiety
it's
to what?
yeah. Oh, like I said, so overwhelming, happy actually.
Mm.
Like it was, I think
Yeah.
I smiled. I think I would have cried, at the response that I got. It actually makes me feel a little bit emotional now, to be fair, because it was like this thing of, uh, um, it was just like, holy shit, these people are worrying about, not worrying, but are caring for me.
Mm,
If their response was, "Oh, are you scared to have a beer?" I'd be going, "They're not. They don't really care."
mm,
And so their response was, caring for me, and that, I guess, filled me with a very appreciative. I felt very appreciative of having friends like that, of people who, care about me, but also, what an awesome group of people, I think. What an awesome group of
mm.
people, right? Like we can get so caught up in, you're a pussy for not having a beer or anything like that. But when somebody has reached out, that's credit to all of them to go, um, no, this is something more than that.
Mm. And I think it's yeah, I think it's credit to you as well though. Like,
Yeah.
like that's a fear that you faced. Even if you didn't get that reaction, you followed through on something that you felt like you needed to do as well, which then, next time a fear arises again, like you learn that you can push through that. And I just
Mm,
think like that example there is just perfect. And you gave I don't think I've never been in a situation like our brain perceives things. If you're really honest and open and vulnerable, I don't think people might not reply, but I don't think you're ever going to get a shame response
Mm.
to that as well.
uh,
So it takes that power from that person who says it, I will. So like credit to you as well, man, for doing that.
yeah,
Mm.
thank you. Yeah, 100%. I think we think that, and it is daunting. I've been there, but I think we think that the response we're going to get is possibly a negative one, and I think we'd be
Mm.
surprised at, asking, just asking for help, and it can be so. Oh man, it could be about anything, right? But
Mm.
asking for help to go, hey, fuck, I'm really struggling with this. Um, I think we'd be surprised at, in our own, like in everyone's lives, how understanding people probably are. But it's
Yeah.
also then it's I guess creating that culture of being vulnerable and being okay to say that.
Yeah. It's such a common belief that when we're vulnerable, like it's going to be shown as weakness. And you
Weakness,
like,
yeah.
and you said that perfectly. Like, oh, they're going to like attack me. They're going to like all this stuff. But yeah, I think like, yeah, you're facing the fear, but you're also like challenging like this big common societal belief that vulnerability equals weakness,
100%, yeah. And
right?
I and
Wow.
that yeah, isn't that crazy that we think
Yeah.
that this idea of vulnerability being
Mm.
weak,
Yeah.
and I 100%, probably believe that growing up.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. 100%. And you would have been in that belief what before you were sending that message, right? And even like the boys in that group chat would have been like probably under the same belief, and they um yeah, you attacking this belief I think is very powerful and shows
Yeah.
them the way through as well. So yeah,
Mm.
that's awesome. That's really
Awesome.
cool. I think
Yeah.
also just on that, like I love how you like having that group of boys, right? Like you were close friends. I think there is a space where um sometimes you can be vulnerable and maybe to the wrong group, right? Like maybe people that you weren't as close with, and it can reinforce that belief. Like there is definitely people out there that would have been like, "Oh, be a pussy, like have a beer," right?
Yeah.
Don't be a
Yeah.
pussy, right? And I think that just knowing or having like people you can be vulnerable with is just very important. And not taking on the other side too much, like the boys who would be like, be a pussy, like don't, yeah,
definitely. And I think
like
I
diving
made
into
a
that so much.
absolutely. And I think I probably made a pretty conscious. I don't think this was it was pivotal for me, but I don't think it was like it wasn't this like life altering experience, but it was definitely a change in understanding for me.
Wow.
And there was a point where like I know like growing up, talk about that social thing and to what you're saying, Jared, about the people that you hang around. When I was younger in high school, probably like older grades of high school, there was part of me who definitely bought into, you know, that social media being popular and the importance of that. And you know, you talk about survival, and I think that was like my I've got to fit in, I've got to be this, you know, person who is, you know, something that I'm not. I remember this clear as day. I was in the car with my brother, and I really idolized my brother for this mindset. He's the kind of guy who he doesn't care where you're from, what you do. He will happily have a chat with you. Would you agree, Bicey? Like
Yeah, 100%, man.
he doesn't
Bear.
doesn't care about any of that stuff. And I was in the car with him, and long story short, I'd met this person, a new friend, this guy, and he had come down from somewhere to play footy, had recently moved to Townsville. My brother, we were talking about him, and I said, foolishly, and I hate even saying this out loud, I said, he's really cool. He's got like, 3,000 followers on Instagram. And my brother, like, we're in the car, just looked at me and went, I don't give a fuck about how many followers he has.
Be like the exact words.
Yeah, literally. And I went, what? And he goes, who fucking cares how much followers he has? Doesn't mean he's a good person. And I was like, and not that this person was a bad person either, but I guess what my brother really taught me in that moment was like, you need to fill your life with people who are good for you. And you know, I didn't stay friends with that person, not out of any reason other than they weren't a good friend with me. At the same time, I changed high school, so I actually used to go to Ryan, where Bicey went. I don't feel like I really fit in there. I then went to William Ross State High, where I found a group of mates who are brothers to me. You know, are people who, you know, who were at my wedding. I had, you know, 4 of them were in my groom's party. Like people who, you know, it's exact same. You know, don't really care about the social media, but just care about having a good time and being good people. And when I started to hang out with them, I felt like I could 100% truly be myself. I could be the nerdy Sean who really enjoys watching Star Wars. And because they love Star Wars too, right? And then I could also be the really sporty Sean who just wanted to put his head down and play sport. And every time I went to a party, my mates would always offer me a drink to see if I wanted one. And when I said no, they never asked me again. And when I had those experiences, I was like, okay, well, these are people who genuinely care about me.
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, I've been quite lucky that having that moment in the car with my brother has kind of made me think about who do I want to have in my life. And then on top of that, so for example, when I'm, you know, being vulnerable, like you said, Jared, those people that I'm having those conversations with are the people who I think would generally care, despite it being a, you know, nerve-wracking experience to send that message.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anyone out there, to
Yeah.
be vulnerable with, come see
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
Agreed. Because it is so,
100%.
yeah, because it is so easy to get stuck. Like I've definitely been there, right? Like so easy to get stuck behind that belief. Like you believe it so much, the vulnerability is weakness that you project it onto others, right? It is so easy to be there, but yeah, I think it's very important, and we find people who we believe in the same beliefs at a core level, and we bring that out in each other, and that's sounds like what you and your friends are doing, which is really cool.
Yeah, and look, I like, yeah, that's just my experience as well. I think other, everyone has their own experiences, but that's just mine.
Yeah.
And like I said, that moment in the car with my brother was pivotal, and really
That's
helped
cool.
me think about, and I've in between then and now, there's been, I'm not a perfect person. Like there's been times where after that moment, how, trying to get out of that idea of being this person on social media isn't important.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I would have absolutely made the mistake of doing that after that moment, but I guess it probably just tried to change my mindset a little bit.
Change that belief. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. So we've heard a bit about like growing up and some of the things you struggle with and your journey, and the character you're playing now and the things that have influenced you. So like looking forward, or I know you're at a bit of a crossroads now, and looking forward. So what do you ideally, if we just start at like, what do you want to create in the future? Then we can look at like where you're at now. But like ideally, if you could think of who you want to ideally become, like your truest version of yourself, and maybe what you could create to give to society to help the most people that you can, what would that look like?
Good
Just
question.
on that quickly, Sean, if I can add, that I feel like you've gotten a really good, like, I guess it feels like you at a true level love the adventure, love the play aspect, and giving that to people, which I think is really cool. And it's something that come into my life recently, just like letting people play in like a safe environment, and it brings out their true selves, like you mentioned. Like you just love letting people be their true selves, and like that builds relationships and like their happiness, and just lets them have fun. Like, and I think that's an awesome gift you're already giving the world. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah.
Thank you. It's funny that you say that word play. I think that is I love that word play. And I think as adults, it's so important. I look at my relationship with my partner, Gracie, and in my vows, one of the things I said to her was that I love that we have a relationship that is playful. It's when we're sitting down on the couch versing each other in FIFA, and all she tries to do is break my player's legs while I try to win the game. But it's also, we are so fortunate that we have so many common interests where we can go and play, soccer together, and we play sport together sometimes. And, even in my family, I think play is, a strong element. When we go camping, we play, things like, I don't know if you've ever played spike ball, but it's awesome. But like we play, different games, and play is fun. It's so much fun, and it creates having a good time. But to your question, Adam, and I think just to continue, I think for me personally, continue growing and understanding, and like I just want to be, I guess, try to be, I guess, a good person. But and how I do this, I don't know, but create a culture. Well, not create, because I think it's already being created, but to continue developing a culture of vulnerability and a safe place, and I guess promoting, that it's okay to be not okay, and it's okay to not know what to do, and it's okay to not know where you're going, but to seek help. And that kind of thing. I think the crossroads that I'm at is, how do you do that? And I have a couple of ideas, and I've actually been talking about them with my sister, who is also, such a great sounding board, because we talk a lot about this kind of stuff together. My friend that passed away was somebody who was very close to her too. So, this subject and topic, is quite close to her heart. And we've been talking about something recently, and I don't know whether I should say it, but we have been talking about something, and it was an idea that I put to her actually when I was on my honeymoon. I was sitting down in New Zealand looking at the Alps after doing lots of hikes and some pretty awesome adventure experiences. And I thought, thinking about some people that I find quite inspirational. For example, like I really find Ned Brockman inspirational, because I'm like, man, I would never run. Like, I find it so hard to run 10K, let alone 100 in a day. That's crazy. And raising so much money for such a great cause. But then I also look at like Hugh Van Cullenberg, who started the Resilience Project, and I think that's amazing. Even some of my my work colleagues and people who I have worked with, and they're not these famous people, but they just do amazing work. And I thought I'd love to raise awareness and raise money for mental health and that kind of thing. And so an idea that I did put to my sister was to walk from Rockhampton to Townsville, which is 1,000 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's hard saying it now, because then it's like, oh shit,
It's out there.
This is the power of saying it. Yes.
But that was just an idea, and I said to Tiana, which is my sister, I said, I don't know I don't even know if that's possible, or what it looks like, or if that's the solution. But it's to me, it was like trying to come up with some sort of event or thing that I can do that is tough for me. And whether my sister wants to do it with me, that's up to her, or my brother wants to do it with me, that's up to him.
I'll do it, yeah.
But to do something that's tough, that kind of, I guess, when you look at like what Ned Brockman has done, creates like a bit of traction to maybe raise awareness or something like that. And I don't know what that looks like. Like I said, I don't know. It may not be walking from Rockhampton to Townsville, but just something. And it's something that I've been thinking about, and how do you do it, and what is that?
Thank you for sharing.
That. We support.
Yeah.
Follow that thought.
Yeah. It's not easy to say, is it? It's like that vulnerable. You got these ideas. I think it's so cool that this idea came to you when you were sitting, stopped and just like been hiking in nature, and then these mountains are there. Like the answers come to you, don't they? Or the ideas, and it doesn't have to be that idea, but just then flowing and putting that out to the universe, something will manifest, I think.
Yeah. And I think for when you're trying to think about what it is you want to create, I think you're going to come up with so many different and out there ideas, and some possible, some maybe a little bit less possible. And but I think just thinking about it and seeing what you can do, and is the start. I love what I do with work. So even just progressing with things in my work, and how do I, for example, when I told you, Jared, about adventure therapy, did you know that was a thing?
I did not. Nah, that is awesome.
So
how cool.
So things like spreading the word about that is a possible intervention for young people. Could it be a possible intervention just for everybody? And no adventure, like the idea of adventure therapy, isn't going to be for everybody, because not one intervention and not one way of doing things will fit everybody, because we're not all the same. But for those that it does fit, is it spreading the word about that?
Letting people play.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's so cool.
Awesome. And that's what we talk about a little bit too, like these ideas and stuff, and they can seem so overwhelming when, it's just you and your millions of neurons, but when you do put it out into the universe and there's other people that it ripples, and there's plenty other people with more millions of neurons, and you put more people together and somehow
you can create change, challenge
Yeah.
beliefs, right?
So thank you for sharing that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I've only really spoken to my partner and my sister about that. So you got that out of me.
So cool, man.
It's a start.
Yeah, that's all right. We're finding our voices. Yeah, cool, man. That's awesome. So with that, like, there's obviously probably fears associated to, based on some self-limiting beliefs and stuff to be able to get there. Is there any fears that you're sitting with at the moment that you might have thought about facing, or like if there is just a fear in your life that might be stopping you from, I don't know, doing anything that you want to do at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have actually had one very recent similar thing. I was on my honeymoon, and we, were doing all these amazing adventure activities and stuff like that. And it was just, beautiful. It's pretty hard not to be in awe when you're in the Alps and stuff like that. And I'm, very, very fortunate that, Grace and I have loved to travel. We've been to some, really amazing places of, the very top of Scandinavia to Iceland and, many places in Europe and stuff like that. But traveling for me is something that actually stresses me out a fair bit. I actually remember on my very first time going overseas, we went to New York, and not a big fan of New York. But I mean, coming from Townsville, it's bloody different.
Wow, yeah.
We hopped off the plane, and one of the first places we went was Times Square, and it felt like I was in a nightclub, but this was just what life was like there. There's just so many people, and I ended up, having I had a bit of a panic attack, and not in there. We had gone back to our apartment, and I was laying in bed, and I was crying and saying to Grace, I can't do this. There's just too many people, and I've never been to a place like this before. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just some kid from Townsville who, swam in the Ross River and went on rope swings for my weekends and played soccer. I don't know how to travel around, and I don't know how to get from A to B. And Grace again was just so solid and, calming for me. And, I was really fortunate that Grace's brother even showed me a lot of support in that moment, which was really nice, and I really appreciate. But then as we've gone on trips, I've always gone with Grace. And something that has recently happened was I was actually meant to go on and do the overland track with two of my, football friends. Again, two of those boys that were in that chat when I sent that message. And in the lead up to that, I again suffered, just had so much anxiety. I'd be crying in the shower, out of stress to go, because it was so, I'd never done anything like that. And I think the thing that was tough for me was Grace wasn't going to be there. And unfortunately, I like I said, I'm not perfect. I succumbed to that feeling. In a way that was in the weeks leading up, I'd caused myself so much stress. I got sick. And at the time, I just thought, I was just thinking, oh, I'm just sick, and I guess that's it. But when I reflect on it, I think it was that, causing so much stress to me that I got sick from being so stressed out. And reflecting back on that, I go like, oh man, I needed to prep myself so much better than what I did, because I would have loved that experience, and now I've missed that experience. And when I was walking through the Alps, my thought was like, oh, I just want to do that stuff, and I just want to, if one of them asked me again to go on that hike, I want to go, and I don't want to feel like I can't go. And whilst Grace is this, is an amazing person, I feel like over time I've probably come, particularly in those moments, because it's so foreign to me. And Grace is a little bit more well-traveled than I am. I have definitely relied on her and being a rock in those. And so for me, I guess it's trying to find a way to do that and not have to rely on Grace, because I think that was the biggest part. I really wanted to do this hike, but Grace wasn't going to be there. So if anything went wrong, I wasn't going to be able to rely on her to be there. And as much as my friends would have 100% just been legends and so solid, I just could not flick my brain out of what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so I eventually succumbed to that pressure and got sick. And I'm not going to be perfect. I don't think, and I don't think anybody is, but I would like to learn to manage those situations better.
Mm.
Yeah, wow. Awesome. Is there any strategies you say, like when you prepare yourself for these? Is there anything that has worked for that anxiety?
I think it's very situational. Like, one thing I like to do when I'm at home now, and I've started to do it a little bit more, is I take my dog for a walk. Where I live in Brisbane, there's a beautiful like creek nearby, so I can take my dog and go and take her for a walk, and I throw the ball into the creek while she has a swim. And sometimes I just sit there and just like try to, practice some of those mindful things and breathe and gather my thoughts and think about what I'm thinking about, slow things down. When I'm actually in the moment, one thing I had learnt was name it. Like, I didn't know this was a thing, but like naming your anxiety, giving it a name, and telling it that you don't need help. So like, for example, when I feel anxious, it has a name, and I will consciously say to myself, like, thank you for caring about me, but I actually don't need your help at the moment. I'm okay and I'm safe, and that kind of thing. And another thing which I have been slack on, because I have just had a wedding and stuff like that, and so I've been pretty busy. But I also did go to the GP to get the, you can get 10 sessions of psychology.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's because I'm this, broken person or anything like that, that is, really struggling with so many elements of my life, but it's there to be used. And if it helps me help myself, I think it's so important to go and seek that support, and have somebody who's, like I said, I can talk to Grace about this stuff and she's fantastic to talk about, but I'd love to not have to rely on Grace so heavily. And this person might give me strategies to do that. Which is, I think important.
Yeah, awesome. I know Jared's talked about therapy a bit on here before.
That's a great start. It's that first bit that's the hardest, going to the GP and getting it sorted.
Yeah, and I feel like I've always actually been pretty open to it. Like, it's not something, but it was definitely that moment of the missing out on that hiking trip when I was like, yeah, I need to do something about this. And when you talk about strategies, Bitey, like, for example, when I had sent that message into my group chat for our end of season trip, some of the strategies for me in that moment to attend that end of season trip was to not go for 2 days. It was to go for 1 day, and it was to drive my car, because then I had control of it. I knew that 1 day was achievable. 2 days may have been a bit of a stretch at that point. And if I can get a win under my belt, which was just going, well, great, that's a win. And maybe the next end of season trip, I go for 2 nights. You never know. But I just needed a win, and that was going to get me a win. So I think, yeah, situational. There are other things that you can do, and I know for me sometimes, not uncertainty, but the unknown is something that can be quite frightening to me. I think that's why travel can cause like those initial days of when I'm traveling. So, we've been to, like I said, to a few different places, but it's often when we hop off the plane and we're in Europe and it's the first night or 2 nights where I really struggle, because again, it's that unknown. But then I get into the swing of how things are going to look and that kind of thing, and then I click out of it. And so I think the unknown is really something that I struggle with.
Yeah, bit of a trigger. That's powerful.
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know, I think we all probably have this similar trait and personalities where we probably get along, like I guess feelers and people that are like empathetic and compassionate, I think pick up a lot of energy more than maybe you don't have those. So it's like that beautiful skill of being compassionate and sensitive and what we call emotional, and usually does come with anxiety, because you understand, like you're constantly analyzing your environment to see where you fit, and like you can understand how people might be reacting or doing things. So yeah, definitely something I've battled with a lot too. In similar ways, but thank you for sharing that.
No, that's okay. It's yeah, it is yeah, that unknown is it's scary. And I guess when I look at so many different things, right, you think about when I started that new job at the YMCA, it's the unknown. What has this got in store for me? And if I then go even further back to when it was staying at a mate's house who I had never stayed at their house before, the unknown, like what's the bedding situation going to be like? What is, what do they do at dinner time? What do they do at night time? And that kind of thing. And that started to, I think if I look at, like you said, Jared, a trigger, that to me is probably my trigger.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I feel like you found that safe place within Grace, and I hope you can find that within yourself too. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool place to be, right? Yeah. Well,
and like I said, I don't think
for all of us,
but I don't think you get it right every time as well. Like as much as I might find it within myself, there's gonna be times where I make that mistake of not prepping myself for a situation, or not reading it right and not reading my body right and all that kind of thing. And then I'm going to ultimately miss out on something that I probably would have really liked to do, or an opportunity or something like that. And I guess I think you just got to be okay with that.
Yeah. And trust.
It's self-love.
It's going to suck when you miss out on it, but that's okay.
And like that's the advice you'd probably give to a mate too, wouldn't it? Like, but we judge ourselves so much harshly in those moments where it's like, gotta practice that self-love.
Definitely.
I think like I rely so much on my daily practice. Like everyone's got that, that safe place, like the journaling and meditation stuff for me, but like I still struggle with a lot of like facing these fears lately, and like I did the meditation one, and one thing that really helped me was, I guess especially with like Jared, like because usually I don't talk about things or like share things. Like I was stressing about, where it was going to be, how many people, it was the time. Like I was self-sabotaging massively, like just fixating on things I could control. Like that week I was just like, if there was one thing out of place in the house, it was like, there was this big thing. But like having someone to, talk to about it, or like multiple people, and just like letting people know so that there is that support there. Like I'd just write about it myself, or maybe tell one person, but like I told Loz, Jared, a heap of other people, and it's like there's that accountability then too. And like and you see the support, and it kind of like overshadows your fears and anxieties, because you're like, well, these people are supportive. But yeah, no, I just thought that was one experience that's helped me, is just like tell as many people as you can that are supportive.
It's like that wraparound kind of support. Hey, and like for the hiking trip, right? I message, like, because I had that positive experience of messaging that big group. I had messaged those, my two mates that I was going with, and the support I got again was just overwhelming and awesome. And all the way up until the flight was leaving was, what can we do to get you there? And I just succumbed to the fact that I was unwell from how much stress I'd put myself through. And like I said, I don't think you get it right. It's okay not to get it right every 100%. Single time. And that those moments will come.
Yeah,
they will come.
And like I bailed on that idea the last 1,000 times it's come up. Like, this is 100%. The first time I've finally been able to do it. But like I've wanted to do that for years. You gotta,
and look at that, and look at the feeling and the relief. I bet is just fantastic.
Unreal, man. Like we call them death cookies. Like if you don't eat it, if like it's a cookie, if you don't eat it, it will just eat you and it'll consume you. And like eat you up. It's like eat your life force up, as one of the psychologists we listen to would say. But
but the beautiful thing is you can eat it at any time, and you just gain your full life force back.
Oh, that's so true, eh? Like, so
it doesn't
true.
matter that you're not doing it
little things too. Like it's not, it doesn't have to be a big like fear of like, you're talking about like going on this trip, but like I think there's little things every day that we do that, the little decisions, and then it's the self-compassion when you don't do it. It's huge, because if you're critical on it, then you're just not going to do it again, because I'm not that person. I'm shit. I couldn't do it. It's a balance, isn't it? Like
100%. That's so true. It's like that. Like, okay, you've missed this window, but there'll be another window. There'll be another window to give it a go, and that when that comes, you give it 100%. And if you don't go again, guess what? There's going to be another window.
Yeah.
The
universe is baking more cookies.
Yeah,
you do it. Trust me.
Yeah.
You're not going to get out of that.
The oven is running hot.
Constantly.
That's
so cool.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
awesome.
I like
that
idea.
Sounds like a fear. Hopefully, in given time, that's a big one. So, and like it's obviously tough, like that trigger for you. That sounds like a huge fear. Like that's not just like some small fear that you're trying to work with every day. That's like a big fucking cake. But I'm excited for you with that, because like with the working on that support, maybe getting some going to therapy and like learning some strategies and things like that. That's so exciting. That and like we talk about fear a lot, and we want to help people overcome their fears, but we also understand, like, we're not saying that you need to go out and like that. It's just if you're ready and when you are, like, we can be supportive, and it's little things. Hey, like you said, like driving your car and staying for one day, like that's huge. That's a great way of thinking about it.
Steps.
And I think like I mean, for example, coming on this podcast is unknown. It's challenging those thought patterns in your head of like, and having those little wins. Like, I said to you boys before we started like the recording part, like I was been up since like 4:30 because I was like, what has this got in store for me? Am I going to say anything that, someone's going to go like, and not like what I've said or something like that. But it's challenging that, like, it is unknown, but you know, you just you know, give it a go and see what will come of it.
Sit with
That's
that
beautiful.
discomfort. We talk about
Yeah.
like alchemy as well, like, and you know, like an alchemist would typically like mix metals and make things, and like we
Yeah.
talk about it in terms of like energy, and emotions aren't necessarily good or bad. They're just like this energy, right? And you know, that nervous energy, that excitement, and whatever it is, that anxiety, and we all mix it together.
Yeah.
And like when we
Create
face
something
it and we sit
beautiful.
with it, we can just create this beautiful thing. Like we can create gold. And I think this conversation has been so.
Yeah, thank you. I have loved having this conversation, and thank you, because like it's you know, having conversations like these can be, you know, pretty tough and hard. And I think as I've kind of listened to you guys speak in previous episodes, and even when I jumped on this morning, you know, creating that space to be comfortable and say some of the things that I've said today is yeah, I appreciate it, because that comes back to the way that you guys act and stuff as well.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think like I just knew, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is the perfect person. I'm like, I'm waiting. Like we could get people on, but I just knew this is because I knew it was a little bit of a fear. There's an anxiety, that uncertainty, and so like I knew you're a vulnerable person and passionate about this. So I knew the
Yeah,
right.
so I'm pretty sure that when you started the podcast, I said, mate, you got to get me on that podcast.
Yeah. And that's what I forgot to say at the start. Like you were one of the first people to like support,
Cool.
like send a message and just like support. Like it's so cool what you're doing. You know,
That's
if you ever
Yeah.
need someone, and like you said that, right? You put that out into the universe that you were willing to come on, and like even though you felt a lot of anxiety and stuff leading up to it, maybe a bit of a fear, not a huge one, but
Yeah.
like you did it. Like that's that
Mm.
the death cookie, and because you put it out there and you said it.
Yeah, I'll probably go
Happened.
for a 10K run today.
Yeah,
Let's go.
exactly. What can't you
He's
do now?
limitless.
Exactly. You just feel.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask a final question, Jared?
I thought we already asked it, like, but
More like advice, like.
yeah, okay. I guess younger Sean or younger kid around 12, 11 going through a similar thing that you've been through. Is there any advice you'd give them just to help them navigate the complexities of life?
Oh, man. Let's sit down and have a 2-hour chat about this.
Yeah. There'll have to
You
be
know,
a part two, I think.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. It's so easy for me to say, but it's so hard to do, right? Like, be yourself. Like, be yourself. But it's so hard to do. You know, when we look at the young people in our society now, they're going through so much. I mean, you know, Facebook was one thing for us when we were growing up, but you know, you look at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all this stuff, and
Yeah, wow.
you know, like I know for me, when Facebook was a thing, that was something that I, you know, having 100 likes on your profile picture meant something and meant that you're popular. And I thought that, you know, having that was a great thing. I mean, now I'm kind of like, well, it is like if someone thinks that a photo that I've taken is nice and it's cool and that kind of thing, well, then great. But I think to tell somebody who's 13 and 12 that is so hard to, and I'd love for them to take it on board. I don't know, it might be a bit hard to take on board because they're probably looking at me going, "You're a dinosaur. What are you talking about?" But yeah, I think be yourself. Be
Yeah, I think
yourself.
it's something
I
everyone
don't. You
should be
don't.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's advice to anyone of any age, really. Like I
agreed.
think even adults, like you guys have spoken so much about that kind of that facade that you put on and the character that you play, and like yeah, you know, when you're at work is, you know, being yourself and talking. I'm so big on, you know, like people say to me that I have that, you know, like that Townsville twang kind of like, and, you know, use that slang and stuff like that. But that's the way I speak. and that's kind of like who I am. And and not that that's that's just an example of being yourself, but I guess it's an example that I think there's so many things that encompass being yourself, but that's also so hard to do.
Environment, right? Like how that inner child that we've talked about, and how you can just, that small trigger, you just get retreat. That little kid again that just wants to fit in and seek approval and validation. And
yeah, definitely.
It's definitely that social media is just, in my job, it's just, we can just it's really scary, and you can see. And people are like, "Oh, kids these days have it so easy, man." I mean, we've talked about social anxiety on here. Imagine now, like, unreal. So it's just a scary world out there.
Yeah, it runs rampant. Like, I don't think we'll truly know the effects of that. What we've kind of created for some time yet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's not going away.
No, and I know that we, like, one of the it's how crazy is it that I mean, I don't have TikTok. It's not something that I necessarily do, but like, Gracie has TikTok, and she often will sit there and swipe because she loves watching medical videos on there, which is great for her. She's she does a bit of learning off it, but like, how crazy is it that you can watch a video for a certain amount of seconds and it pre-populates then the next part. So if, let's say, you're watching something and it's got a racist remark in it, and then the videos after that are full of it. It's like, what is this teaching? Like, what is this teaching our young people? Like, that's just and then there's so many like videos that are so unregulated and have such explicit and
our bodies
content.
We're not meant to be seeing that stuff.
No, our brain's plastic.
But that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
We won't go there. We'll finish on more of a positive note.
Yeah. But be yourself. Be yourself.
I love it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That's a beautiful sentiment to anyone out there, I think. Sean Karambasis, thank you so much for being our first guest.
Thank
you to go run 10Ks a day and walk to Rockhampton.
Yeah.
We're going to do it.
Sounds good. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.